Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name is Amy. I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the Niv. We are in Judges chapter 15. We are continuing with this story of Samson. Okay. Samson's vengeance on the Philistines. Later on, at the time of the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife, who was given to another that same night. He said, I am going to my wife's room. But her father would not let him go in. I was so sure you thoroughly hated her, he said, that I gave her to your friend. Isn't her younger sister more attractive? Take her instead. Samson said to them, this time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will really harm them. So he went out and caught 300 foxes and tied them tail to tail in pairs. That is just terrible. Why are you going to torture the animals? He then fastened a torch to every pair of tails. It's horrible. Lit the torch and let the foxes loose in the standing grain of the Philistines. He burned up the shocks and the standing grain together with the vineyards and olive groves. When the Philistines asked who did this, they were told Samson, the Timonite's son-in-law, because his wife was given to his friend. So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death. This is just horrible. Animal torture, all kinds of just... Samson said to them, since you have acted like this, I won't stop until I get my revenge on you. He attacked them viciously and slaughtered many of them. Then he went down and stayed in a cave in the rock at Etam, E-T-A-M. The Philistines went up and camped in Judah, spreading out near Lehi, L-E-H-I. The men of Judah asked, why have you come to fight us? We have come to take Samson prisoner, they answered, to do to him what he did to us. Then 3,000 men from Judah went down into the cave in the rock of Etam and said to Samson, don't you realize that the Philistines are rulers over us? What have you done to us? He answered, I merely did to them what they did to me. Then they said to him, we've come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines. Samson said, swear to me that you won't kill me yourself. Agreed, they answered. We will only tie you up and hand you over to them. We will not kill you. So they bound him, and with 2 new ropes, they let him up from the rock. As he approached Lehi, the Philistine came towards him shouting. And then the Spirit of the Lord came upon him in power. The ropes on his arms became like charred flax, and the bindings dropped from his hands. Finding a fresh jawbone of a donkey, he grabbed it and struck down 1,000 men. Went like berserker mode and killed 1,000 men with the jawbone of a donkey. Then Samson said, with the donkey's jawbone, I have made donkeys of them. With the donkey's jawbone, I have killed 1,000 men. When he finished speaking, he threw the jawbone, and that place was called Ramath Lehi. Ramath Lehi means jawbone trail. So, okay. Because he was very thirsty, he cried out to the Lord, you have given your servant this great victory. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised? Then God opened up a hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. When Samson drank, his strength returned, and he revived. So the spring was called En Hakor. Hakor means collar's spring, and Hakor means collar spring. Okay. And it is still there in Lehi. Samson led Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. So that's like a mixed kind of thing. Like, ooh, get a whole, like, is he really a hero? Because he does some dark stuff. I don't know. Samson's got some emotional issues and some temper problems that makes him feel like he feels like he's allowed to kill people. So this is an issue. Comes off a little sociopathic. That's my opinion thus far. Not that this is the first time I've read Samson and Delilah, but you feel free to give me what you think of Samson. Yes, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you don't really care for Samson. There are different people in the Bible that I care for and others not so much. And, the one that I really love is the Messiah, and Samson's not him. So, we're green for go. Until the next video, friends. Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy. I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the Niv, and we are in chapter 16 of the book of Judges. More in the story of Samson, and we will bring it actually to a conclusion in this video. So, Samson and Delilah. One day, Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute. He went in to spend the night with her. The people of Gaza were told, "Samson is here." So they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. So they made no move during the night, saying, "At dawn we will kill him." But Samson lay there only until the middle of the night. Then he got up and took hold of the doors of the city gate together with the two posts and tore them loose, and bar and all. He lifted them up to his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. Sometime later, he fell in love with the woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. The rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, "See if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him so that we may tie him up and subdue him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver." That is 28 pounds. Each one of them will give her 28 pounds of silver. That's a lot of silver. So Delilah said to Samson, "Tell me the secret of your great strength and how you can be tied up and subdued." Samson answered her, "If anyone ties me with 7 fresh thongs, or bowstrings, that have not been dried, I'll become weak as any other man." Remember, this is a man who's been betrayed by telling a secret to a woman already. Okay? Then the rulers of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh thongs that had not been dried, and she tied him with them. With men hidden in the room, she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But he snapped the thongs as easily as a piece of string snaps when it comes close to the flame. So the secret of his strength was not discovered. Then Delilah said to Samson, "You have made a fool of me. You lied to me. Come now and tell me how you can be tied." He said, "If anyone ties me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as any other man." So Delilah took new ropes and tied him with them. Why does he keep giving her these opportunities? Then with men hidden, I mean, I know it's not true, but still, how many times does she have to betray you before you believe her? Then with men hidden in the room, she called to him, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. But he snapped the ropes off his arms as if they were threads. Then Delilah said to Samson, until now you have been making a fool of me, lying to me. Tell me how you can be tied. He replied to her, if you weave 7 braids of my head into the fabric on a loom and tighten them with a pin, I will become weak as any other man. So while he was sleeping, Delilah took 7 braids of his head and wove them into the fabric and tightened it with a pin. And again she called upon him, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. He woke from his sleep and pulled up the pin and the loom with the fabric. Then she said to him, how can you say I love you when you won't confide in me? This is the 3rd time you have made a fool of me, and you haven't told me the secret of your great strength. With such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was tired to death. Okay. At what point do you just, though... Now, like, at what point do you just, though, leave? This is not his wife. Like... So he told her everything. No razor has ever been used on my head, he said, because I have been a Nazirite set apart to God since birth. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man. When Delilah saw that he had told her everything, she sent word to the rulers of the Philistines. Come back once more, he has told me everything. So the rulers of the Philistines returned with the silver in their hands. Having put him to sleep on her lap, she called a man to shave off the 7 braids of his hair, and so began to subdue him, and all his strength left him. Hebrew and some Septuagint scammers, he began to weaken. Then she called, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. He woke from his sleep and thought, I'll go out as before and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. Then the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him down to Gaza, binding him with bronze shackles. They set him to grinding in the prison. But the hair on his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. The death of Samson. Now the rulers of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and to celebrate, saying, Our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands. When the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, Our God has delivered our enemy into our hands, the one who had laid waste our land and multiplied our slain. While they were in high spirits, they shouted, Bring out Samson to entertain us. So they called Samson out of the prison, and he performed for them. When they stood him among the pillars, Samson said to the servant who held his hand, Put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple, so that I may lean up against them. Now the temple was crowded with men and women. All the rulers of the Philistines were there, and on the roof there were about 3,000 men and women watching Samson perform. Then Samson prayed to the Lord, O sovereign Lord, remember me. O God, please strengthen me just once more, and let me, with one blow, get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes. Then Samson reached out towards the 2 central pillars on which the temple stood, bracing himself against them, on his right hand on one and his left hand on the other. Samson said, Let me die with the Philistines. Then he pushed with all his might, and down came the temple on the rulers and all the people in it. Thus he killed many more when he died than when he lived. Then his brothers and his father's whole family went down to get him. They brought him back and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of Manoah his father. He had led Israel for 20 years. So, once that last bit of the Nazarene vow had happened and his head would have been shaved, he got rid of his, there was no more superpower. Until he was willing to humble himself and ask God for help. Now, also a good thing to note here for Samson. If you were ever in your little child mind just wondering why is it with all these stories, with all the superhero powers, why can't we have superpowers anymore? Samson. Because Samson used his superpower stuff to be a big old jerk. Samson is why we don't have superpowers. Because he couldn't control his temper. So, until the next video, friends. Hello, friends. So, Bible study, the Niv, John, chapter 2. We're going to do through 1 through 12. I'm also going to make a second video that will cover 12 through 25. These are two of my, I like to talk about these parts in all of the Gospels when they talk about these particular stories. So, this one's title is Jesus Changes Water to Wine. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Dear woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied, "My time has not yet come." Now, if you've watched the show Chosen, you know what you're talking about here. So think about that conversation. That means that the two of them have already previously discussed the fact that at some point he's going to need to make public who he is. And they're kind of already talking about the PR of it. So, and I feel like the actor in Chosen does a really good job of showing that. Like, that interaction between those two actors, that I think they show that pretty well. They give you the more human context behind it, so I particularly like that show. His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you," as if she's like, "Boy, what did I just say?" And then walks away, like, you're going to, because it's the right thing to do. Don't let these people be embarrassed, right? And she knows he's always going to do the right thing. He has her same immaculate heart, so she understands her son better than anybody else ever could, because that's basically like his best friend. Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washings, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they were filled to the brim. So these jars, they're used for different parts of different ceremonies, right? And some of those ceremonies, there's droplets of whatever was in there before. And also, let me just, because something just last night and stuff, so I'll come into that, okay? Then he told them, he said, "Fill the jars to the brim," so they filled them to the brim. Then they told them, "Now draw out some and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called to the bridegroom aside and said, everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now. This, the first of his miraculous signs, Jesus performed at Cana in Galilee. He thus revealed his glory, and his disciples put their faith in him. Now, last night I've been doing Khan Academy, taking a biology class, which is actually really organic chemistry, is really what we're studying. Everything that is alive on this planet, so every plant, every human, every animal of any kind that is sentient in some fashion, plants they're alive. They respond to these different types of life, right? All of them have that double helix DNA swirl. And in that swirl, the way it makes that structure, the way it holds that structure when you're looking at organic chemistry, is everything that's alive on this planet only really contains 5 different types of elements in it. That's it. The outer strand, and it's sugar. The molecules that you have to come together to create sugar are in there. And it's just this very simple what needs to be created for sugar, because it's really just basically carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen to make sugar. And it's the sugar that's sticking everything together. Phosphate and sugar on the outside, and on the inside, it's like nitrogen, because that's really what it is. It's carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and phosphate. And that's everything that's alive, or ever was alive. So that means that Jesus, in order to do this thing, is rearranging the molecules at a quantum level to turn it into something else. Because it's still only the same elements. I always thought, because the way they show it, they had the wine. He was refilling it from the wine jug. So he was just expanding the wine molecules when he filled it with more water to make it more dense. Okay. No, it doesn't really matter. He could turn something into anything else that he wanted to, because he's rearranging the molecules. Because what the difference is where the molecules are sitting based upon because they don't actually stay in one place. They're always moving, whether they spin or they vibrate, or it doesn't matter what direction they're going in, because some of them do go linearly. That it's just a matter of where is it heavier? Where has it got a negative versus a positive? What else is near it that it's repelling it or drawing it to each other to make it stay in a structure? So it's really just, the fact that opposites, the positives and the negatives, are drawn to each other, right? So to make it glom on together. And that's about sharing electrons, which is the energy that's in everything. Because that's really what Creator is every bit of energy everywhere in the known or unknown universe. He doesn't have a corporeal being the way that we do. It's our soul that is a mirror of Him, and not our physical vessel. Or at least that's my belief system. So He's just rearranging these molecules because they're the same molecules. He could just be like in his brain spinning it. Think about that. Like when you're playing with a Rubik's Cube and you've got to get all the colors together. That's what it would be like for him. That's and that's as much challenging as it is. Spin these elements until they come together in the right combination of positives and negatives, ones and zeros, until they make up this element that these beings say is wine. That's what he's doing. That's amazing to me. And it's probably exactly that simple to him. Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy. I'm an ordained minister, and we're in Bible study. We're in the Niv. We are in Psalms, Book 4, and we are in Psalm 99. So, let's jump in here. The Lord reigns. Let the nations tremble. He sits enthroned between the cherubim. Let the earth shake. Great is the Lord in Zion. He is exalted over all the nations. Let them praise your great and awesome name. He is holy. The King is mighty. He loves justice. You have established equity. In Jacob, you have done what is just and right. Exalt the Lord our God and worship at his footstool. He is holy. Moses and Aaron were among his priests. Samuel was among those who called on his name. They called on the Lord, and he answered them. He spoke to them from the pillar of cloud. They kept his statutes and his decrees he gave them. O Lord our God, you answered them. You were to Israel a forgiving God, though you punished their misdeeds. Exalt the Lord our God and worship at his holy mountain. For the Lord our God is holy. And amen to that, my friends. Until the next video, friends.